your second time or your third time in as do you remember?
Somebody is making a very weird noise.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mute everybody, but not a hard mute. So Rich unmuted, Bobby, please unmute yourselves, okay?
So I was welcoming Rich and I'm asking him if he remembers. I know for a fact he's been here as our judge twice, and I was wondering if maybe there was a third time. Do you remember, Rich? Oh.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Mhm.
Okay.
We have an echo, Rich.
I have two computers set up and I'm having difficulties muting in such a way where. Is that better?
No, we have a tremendous echo.
It was working before, fine.
Move a little back further away.
I think you're getting feedback from one computer to the other.
You're right.
Yeah, I would turn the volume,
don't-
even though
we didn't-
you have
we
it
didn't have
silent,
this
I would turn
problem
the volume
before.
off on the second computer. Can't hear you at all, Rich.
I don't know why. Sometimes everything goes smoothly and sometimes they don't.
Well, it's smooth now. Anyhow, I was asking if you remembered how many times you've judged for us. I thought 2, but I was wondering maybe it's 3.
I don't recall. What I do recall, you have such a really nice place to have your meetings and competitions. All the places I go, I think that's the nicest. So,
Well, those were the good old days, Rich.
yeah.
Now in the era of COVID, we're all here at our desks at home.
Well, I miss getting out to a lot of the clubs. I think I had told you before, I cut back on a lot of clubs that I used to do because they were so doggone far away. And because a lot of them were up in the northern part of the state, I used to have to leave like hours before showtime in case I had a traffic situation and I'd stop somewheres and have a nice dinner. And by the time I got there, I was ready to go to bed.
We had that situation with several judges who came from the northern part of the state. Yeah,
Sure.
you
At the
know.
clubs that I belong to in Monmouth County and especially Ocean County, we've always had a lot of difficulty getting judges because a lot of them come from the northern part of the state. And we just kept upping our fees. We were paying $100 and a quarter, sometimes just to try to get, nobody does this for money, but you don't want it to cost you money too. You understand what I mean?
Well, in any case, we're delighted to have you here again. We've instituted something new. This is a relatively new change to the club, but when the judging is over, we're going to have an open mic for everybody who might want to ask you some questions. Nobody's going to challenge your score, nothing like that, but things that you may have said that they want to pursue or find out more about. So I hope that'll work out. It's worked out.
Absolutely.
Okay, terrific. Then we are ready to go.
Okay.
If you see me turning my head, I'm looking at my 27-inch monitor,
Okay.
which is
Okay,
I wanna
can
move.
everybody see that all right?
yes.
Okay, we're gonna start with the open group 1. We have 11 entries. Flower in green.
Right, this is an in and out that we're doing right now with some critiquing. So I'm going to call this as an out for the following reasons. Typically, when you photograph a subject such as this plant, you want to isolate the plant from the background and from any distractions that you have from it. So this image can be improved by tightening the crop. I'm sorry, do you have a means of so that I can do annotations? I think that's
You
something
should be
that you
able
have.
to,
Okay, annotate. Oh, here you go. I got it. And I want to pick out my tool. I'm going to use a mouse. Okay. Can you see that? Pardon me?
No, not,
no, I can't.
Okay, I'm going to try a different tool. I'm going to clear that one and I'm going to use an arrow. Okay, now you can see that?
no.
Oh,
No.
I don't know why. Oh my God, I can see it on my screen.
I see Rich Despot in the red arrow. I see that.
Okay, we got the arrow. Thank you.
All right, that's weird. Okay. So I can't do what I want to do, but in any event, about at the tip of that red line to at the point of it, if you drew a vertical line straight down, you might clip the lower leaf. So I would say pulling it off to the left a little bit like there. In other words, do a tighter crop around the entire plant. And then the plant itself, you see how the focusing down near the lower part of the stem, it doesn't really match the rest of the sharpness of the plant. In addition to that, you have a lot of distractions with other kinds of branches and such. Those things, you should always look to eliminate that when you're taking the capture with your camera. Very difficult to undo it in editing, and your background is too busy. So those are the reasons I'm saying that this is an out. Next.
Ultra abstraction.
This is definitely because of the various elements that make this image come together. Number one, I'm really big into perspective control, and you've got that nailed. In other words, all the vertical components here are straight up and down. It's nice where you have it cropped right and left. Just a very tiny nitpicking thing. If you cropped a little bit over to the right, you see the thickness of that vertical component as opposed to the one on the left. So if you slim that down a little bit by cutting like 3/4 of the right part of it off, that would be improved. I like the background, how it's like not existent. It looks like might be a blue sky, maybe not. We don't know what this is, but it doesn't matter. It's a nice study of abstracted components to pull together a very nicely done image. Next.
Don't stare at me.
This is an out for obvious reasons that it lacks sharpness. There is only one thing that's sharp in the whole image, and that's one eye with a very bold highlight in the eye, and to the point where it looks like it might have been put there. If that was what you saw on your image when you're doing your editing, I would have you soften that a bit so it didn't look so fake. But when you're taking a photograph like this of an animal, sharpness is extremely important, especially in the face, and the eye especially double. And in this case, your focal depth would have been easy to capture everything sharp because of the position that the animal is in. It's ideal for getting a sharp shot. It's nice compositionally if you had just a little bit of cropping here, right at the end of the red arrow, it vertically, because look at the space that you have from the head to the right border. As a matter of fact, I pull that in a little bit more and make it much tighter at the butt end, so to speak. Now the background's very nice. I like that. It can't get any better than that. Next.
Here, kitty.
Almost there, but yeah, it's an out on here's the reasoning for that. First and foremost, there had to have been a time when the animal was looking at you rather than somewhere else. That makes a huge difference when you're doing portraits of animals. Two obvious things here that hurts this image really a lot is where you cropped the foot. Yeah, you just don't do that. You should have had your camera capture even the other foot that's extended quite a bit down. It might be that you have the original image. If you redo it and show that, you'll see what I mean. Also the vertical tree there, that hurts the image a lot. What you've done really, really well here is look at the distance from the back end of the animal, how much space that you're allowing in your crop, and look at how much space that you're allowing in front of the animal, the direction that it's facing. That is perfect. As well as the crop on the top is pretty close to perfect. I would have dropped it. No, I wouldn't have dropped it because I'm looking at the imagined extension of the animal's left ear, the black part of the ear that's going up. So that's good. Background is beautifully blurred, and that works well. The sharpness of the fur of the animal, except for a little bit just near below the butt part of it, is really sharp. So there's too many things that hurt this image to put it into an out category. Next, please.
I'm trying. It's hold on. And pardon the English. Aninga drying its wings.
I'm looking at two monitors here, and my there's a slight difference, even though I calibrated both. And so if you don't see me stretching from one to the other. So that's why I'm giving the best of both worlds for you, opting for the better image. Okay. The things that it hurt this image is the head area is a little soft. There's softness in the feathers on the back, which are very hard to define because there's some detail in a lot of those black feathers that could be brought out. And then you really want to get frontal parts of birds. So I would have just hung around there until perhaps he was turned around, maybe a little further away from that big branch that's hiding some of the body. I like the fact that you caught him or her. I don't know how you tell the difference. I like that when they're drying out their wings. They seem to do that a lot. I used to live at a pond, and I used to see birds coming there and doing that all the time, and I enjoyed watching that. I think this could have been done better in camera. We're getting your focal depth sharper. So it's an out.
Snowy day.
Snow is always very difficult to capture because you get a sunny day like this, and more often than not, it's all blurred out. You did a really, really good job here of capturing snow and really enjoying the feel of it with regards to the textures. And you've got light hitting it in a certain way where some of the snow that looks translucent, that looks really, really good. And you see that in real life, but you don't see it often in people capturing it in the way you've done it here. The time of year you did this is obviously winter, but then there's the signs of fall in there with some of the leaves refusing to drop. The area of interest in the image is it is not a real strong subject. You might look into trying to capture a smaller part of the image, especially that bush in the foreground that my eyes keep going to, not because of the bright blown out area, which I'm not going to take away from, because that's what your eye would see if you were there. And I'm torn to throw this into one area or another here, so I'll have another opportunity. So I'm going to say this is an end.
Arctic Wolf.
I like the cropping on this a lot. You could trim it a little bit on the bottom, halfway through that lower rock, a little bit, just to focus more on the animal. But again, the distance between the front end of the animal to the right side crop is a lot greater than the back. That's a very, very good strong point. It's putting the head of the image dead center into the image, just something you might want to look for a little tighter crop on the right just to get that off a little bit, but it's okay. The animal is sharp mostly throughout, a little bit on the animal's left ear is definitely softer. The colors are good and they're true. And the background showing the fences and what appears to be, I thought at first a building, but apparently there's a lot of leaves in some area in the back. This is a group that is, if this were the AA group, I would say, you know better to get those yellows in the back behind the dog toned down so that it gives a little better, a little less of a distraction. Nonetheless, this is an end.
What's inside of a cat's head when staring out of the window?
The first club I belonged to down South Jersey here was the Ocean Club, and they used to have a creative group, and I missed that. I would put this photograph in that category because I believe it was the maker's intent to create what I see here. Because if they were shooting for a traditional, true photograph with regards to what you submit to a photography club image as a straightforward photograph, I think you would have had to go a long way to mess up the detail in the cat in the foreground with regards to the fur. So there's some sort of working that was done to create this. I could be wrong, but I would put a lot of money on that fact of life. I'm going to say creatively, it's very attractive. And I see you're mixing mono and color in the same category, so this is not a mistake that this was put in there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So even though it's creative, if it were my image, I would have corrected the perspective control. I'm talking about the up and down lines. You can see that to the left of the image especially. All images should have a stroke or a very fine white border around the image, especially when you've got blacks like this bleeding right into the background. And I lost my little red arrow. Definitely leave this in.
Juggler silhouette.
This is what I meant about that fine white line around your image. So often I see images submitted to competitions where people take them with street performers, and you see a lot of them, and they come off like just a record shot of something going on. So this photograph certainly brings this into a completely different light, so to speak. It might have been on a stage, who knows, who cares? The end result is a very attractive presentation. The silhouette is almost a total 100%, but a little highlight here or there, which is fine. I like the color in the background, starting off with the darker yellow colors going up to the gray. I like that a lot. This is an in.
3 votes.
This is a good idea. I'm counting votes, and do you count the other 2 in reflection or not? No, he says 3 votes. That's fine. It's 3 votes. I like the idea. I like the placement. We all like reflections, and in this case, the thought might have been that wanting to show a lot of reflection, and that happens often with photos that are shown in competitions. Too often, too much of the reflection is shown. In this case, I think if you cut that down in half, and using my hand up in front of it, and it may be just a little more than half, capturing the entire first boat reflection, but cropping it pretty close on the bottom there. So you get the idea there is water there, there is a reflection. The placement of the boats are nice. The detail is very nice. I like the colors until I get to the grassy areas. Somehow it doesn't look at that realistic. I think if you brought your yellows down a little bit in the overall image, it might help the grass a little bit. It's an in.
Here, Kitty, 2.
All right, this animal is placed in a perfect place. I like it. The head is in dead center, but somehow it works with what you've got going around the rest of the image. A lot of judges would say you tighten it all up all around just to get the head. But this to me would be in the in category. One of the things that's questioning me a little bit is I'm looking at the background, and being that there's a green glow, let's start where the back is, just before it goes up to the ear. See, it starts getting all this green, then around that, I don't know what they call it, the tip of the ear, which is black, the green goes up there, right along the other side of the ear, the top of the head, up in the other, all around the face and all that. I feel that somebody worked the background in such a way to darken it, and I think it kind of ruined the picture for you. Because the eyes are really sharp and in the most of the face is very sharp, as well as the rest of the body, with just a little fall off near the chest area. Well, this is an in.
Okay, so now we have 7 for round 2, which is going to be a 7, 8, or 9. Ultra abstraction.
9,
Snowy day.
7,
Arctic wolf.
8,
What's inside a cat's head when staring out the window?
9,
Juggler silhouette.
8,
What? Ooh,
3 boats.
7,
Dear Kitty 2.
7,
Okay. From here, we're going to pick a first and a second place.
all right, the color one is the first place.
Which one?
That one there is first place, and
Okay.
the other one is the second.
Sorry. Let me just sign award. Okay, from here, from these two, we're going to take a third place.
The animal.
oh, Milton.
Okay, open group 1, third place, Arctic Wolf Harvey, congratulations. Second place, what's inside a cat's head when staring out the window? Walter, really nice shot. And first place, Ultra Abstraction, Walter. Wow, today's your day, Walter. All right, now we're going to do group 2. We have 27 items here. Open group 2, Cardinal in Snowfall up close.
Okay, this is what there's expectations are of when you're judging in competitions. In competition, there's many flower and bird pictures that judges get to see. And because of that, those that are done properly are sought, and given the good scores. In this case here, you couldn't expect it to be any more sharp in detail than you have here. It's a strange way the head is turned, but I can't fault the photographer for doing that. A better picture of the image, it might be with the head turned facing somewhat forward where you can see the other side and you get the shape of the beak, but again, I'm not faulting it. This is very well done. For mine, I would cut down a little bit on the cropping with the top and what we're looking at image wise to the left. The main reason being you have to pay attention to the amount of real estate that any one segment of your image is taking up. In this case, the supporting part of the image, the background is taken up. It's kind of hard to calculate this, but maybe 40% or so of the image, and it's nice to reduce that. So you don't want to cut out any of the bird itself, so that leaves the top and the left. Give that a try and see if that improves the presentation of this image. It's an in.
Joshua Tree.
I was supposed to go there just before we had this shutdown with the COVID stuff. Hope to go there the next time. I'm looking at my image on my monitor because on my main monitor, a 27-inch one, it looks like it needs some work on it. So I won't comment on that. It looks pretty good. Except I think if you increase your black levels just a little bit, it'll give you a little more depth, not so much in the tree in the foreground, your main subject, but in the rest of it, and give it a little more, adds a little more realism to the image. But even though you've got a so-called bald sky, I love the differences in the colors where that's over the background mountains and hills and such, going up to the blue, and the colors look, again, referring to my laptop monitor, look, it's a lot better there than it's in.
Rich, did we lose you?
No, I'm sorry, didn't say next, I just said in, and I should have said next, sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end. Hello, Froggy.
Nice idea. Oh, I'm doing that echo again. I don't know what, I didn't change anything. I'm gonna turn my mic down a little bit. Tell me if you're having difficulty hearing me. It's a nice angle where you captured this frog. There's a lot of, I think it's noise throughout the whole image, unless you're shooting through a piece of glass that is got a lot of dirt or something on it that's blurring the whole animal. In the eye is almost really sharp, but it's not. I do like the colors. It looks like the natural color of the animal in the, I want to call them armpits, but the leg pits, let's call them, where the yellow is. So, you know, that's nature for you. The overall animal looking like it's on an angle. It's nice. The background's very blurry. That's very nice too. It's a nice, smart little line or stroke around it. But I think you know, I'm gonna keep it in for now. Next.
Friendly basketball game.
You caught what you're looking to do. You obviously at a very high speed. The person who looks like he's reaching out for the ball, who looks perhaps he just threw it, is up in the air, and you got the ball in a very good place and good action. I don't know, is that legal interference with the arm across the guy's chest? I'm not sure. But all of that kind of thing is working for you. It's a nice exposure. I like the color in the foliage. More often than not, yellow has to be pulled back, but here it's the true colors. There's a lot to look at, and believe it or not, the biggest distraction of all is the guy in the way background with his head over the shoulder. I believe that actually is a distraction. It's easy to take out, but I wouldn't take it out because what do you do with the rest of the body? In
Who's looking at you?
It's a well exposed image and soft skin. You couldn't ask for more than what you'd find on a baby, of course. And we even have a reflection of the photographer taking the shot. And look at those dark eyelids. Makeup at that age? No, not really. It's a nice photograph. I would think that hopefully you try taking the pacifier out of the baby's mouth and sure it would make a big difference. But the technicals are all there, and it's an in.
My peaceful place.
Again, I have two different images as far as my laptop and my 27-inch screen. But I've learned over time that I'm more trust in my laptop image, and it shows it a really good, strong contrast. Unlike my big monitor that looks a little washed out. I don't know why that is, but it happens. So I'm going to just comment on it compositionally. It's very realistic. This is what you see when you're at a location like this. Does it present a strong interest or not? Yet something has to be determined. If it were mine and I wanted to take this image to show this, what I would do is perhaps reduce in the cropping. I would crop it like 25% from the bottom, and I would crop. Oh, I think I've got this tool working now. Yes, I do. This is disturbing. I'm going to clear that now. So, clear it, please. Clear it. So in other words, a crop to crop that's out of here. That thing go down straight, by the way. And then I would say, because a lot of this, can you see the tool going around on the screen?
I could see the red,
Just the red though, right?
yes.
Not the tool itself.
No.
In a lot of this area here is blurred out. So what we're dealing with is a crop that's going to come someplace like this instead of what you've got there now. And now, is that going to cut it or not? You'll have to decide. But for now, we're going to leave this as an in.
Just window shopping.
Okay, people will probably right away say, oh, this has got to be terrible. It's so out of focus and all of that. But I think we all know somebody went through lengths to make sure it had this effect. Now, does everybody like that or not? That's up to the individual. So it pops right into that creative category. So how do you judge creative? So it's a personal thing, is this something that I'd like to see is a winning creative attempt or not? So I'll do my best. So the positive elements in the image are the fact that it's blurred the way that it is. Not everything is blurred in the exact same strength, so to speak. There's the repetition of the mannequins, which is very nicely done and balanced with the upper part of the building. That's nice. If it were my image, I would correct the perspective. You know, I'm big on that. Anytime you've got straight up and down vertical lines like you have here, you want to get them straight, period. It's a very easy thing to do in any photo editing tool that you have. This image is in. Next, please.
Graceful.
Here's a glaring example of why you need a stroke or fine white line around your image. Where does this image end? I don't know. I know where I would put it, but we don't know. So that hurts this image a lot. Okay, you've got a very youthful subject. Youth equals nice soft skin, which is always fun. It's not the sharpest image in the world, but sometimes it doesn't have to be. The sharpest part of the image that I see here is in the lip area where the eyes are even soft a little bit, which is, to me, looks like it's hard to do unless it was selective. The subject's not looking into the lens, which is preferred, but sometimes it doesn't have to be either. So let's keep this in next.
Nightscape from Hoboken.
The photographer used obviously a slow speed to smooth out the water. That's extremely fashionable nowadays. It's an easy enough thing to do as long as you have your camera on a tripod. And in some cases, they're overdone. I'm not calling this overdone, but what I am calling overdone is, once again, remember we talked about the real estate, how much real estate is taken up by. In this case, look at all the real estate that's taken up by the water. And there's nothing there to support the image. So I would say, if I would, you should look at this image and crop off, I would say maybe that much of your image. Take that off.
It's not showing.
You didn't see a red line. Okay, sorry. So starting at the bottom, if you moved up about maybe 3/4 of the way to crop off the bottom. At the same time, you've got all that excessive space on the top of the Empire State Building. And I would say cut that down by half. Okay, you've got a pano image here. That's tough when you're making prints, right? But we're in a digital world right now, with remote meetings as we're having. So go for it. Make it what you feel like it should be. There's no constraints to aspect ratio, and it would make I think, a much more pleasant image. But your exposure is good. I'm the whites are diffused. That's what happens at this time of day. I always tell people, when you're taking night images, always take them when it's not so nightish out. I think all that's lit up in the skies right now is the light that's coming from the city itself. And a lot of the buildings looked like no detail in it because you took it so late. But overall, it's nice. You got the vertical lines up and straight up and down. It made me happy. And your horizontal ones are as well. So this is an in.
Lily in the garden.
Like to see that white stroke line around the edges again. I mean, more so on some other images than this, but you should always have it in all images. Again, a creative, very nicely done. Nice color selection. We know it's not realistic because it is creative. So then we have to talk about compositionally. Is that something that we say is as good as it can be? I would say if you had included the rest of the flower to the right, that would have helped here. And I think you have the cropping at the top sort of tight. I think you could have used a little more space up there, maybe a little tiny bit more on the lower petal, the one that's off to your left. But it's beautifully done. It's an in and next.
Gull at sunrise.
We don't look at gulls as being beautiful birds. I do. I live 5 blocks from the water, and I go down there, not during the day in the summer, but at nighttime and mornings. And I don't like the heat. I don't like the sand and the sun and all of that stuff. And I live here anyway. I love the looks of these gulls, and I often think about photographing them, and I say, "Gee, wow, doesn't have the impact of a heron or an egret or many other beautiful beach birds." But this is an example. They're pretty cool birds. And of course, the association with the shore makes it all work together. So the bird's placed in the right position. It could have been a little bit more to the left. You know how to crop it to make that happen. But it's okay. It's got a lot more space the bird is flying into than for where it came from, which is a good rule in photography. Your horizon is straight and it's not in the middle. Those are two really strong features about presenting seascapes. Those two things are must. You've got a great sky. And this is the way you're presenting it because this is the time of day. That's the lighting on the bird on this side. Or the cameras may have picked up the brightness of the bright parts of the sky and made that a little bit darker. So you may want to lighten up that area. There's a control I know in Photoshop where you control with sliders bright areas and dark areas to balance that off. But it's nicely done. This is an in and next.
Famous tree of Ravello.
In travel photography, we see so many great places that are photographed, and oh hum, it's a beautiful snapshot of the Colosseum. Oh hum, another beautiful snapshot of the Colosseum. But you get what I mean. And on occasion, when you're traveling, you see something that maybe it's not so much as glorious as the Colosseum, but a building with not really strong statement, so to speak. But you come upon an unusual combination of the building being there in association with the surrounding to show it's where this tree is placed. And it's a glorious tree. I mean, it is incredible. And where it is acting like a little the shade you'd have over your table on your patio. It's not providing the shade for the people on that patio right now, but you get what I mean. It's nicely exposed at this type of the day with that kind of light on, although it looks like a little, it's bright sun. It came out really, really well. If you wanted to improve this image a little bit to show a little more depth in the image, the blueness that you see in the tree line, the darker tree line at about a quarter of the way up from the bottom of the tree, and then all of those mountains in the background, you could take away some of that bluishness. And that's haze, that's moisture in the world, in the air. Find out where your haze control slider is in your editing software, and see how your image looks by removing some of that moisture with that filter. This is an in, and next, please.
Singing in the holiday season.
I like the square crop, almost square crop. Again, that's something we can do now with digital presentations. We don't have to worry about aspect ratios that you'd have in a matted print. So your cropping here is really, really good. If you lower the crop on the top to emphasize the people, you would be taking away some of the architectural detail of the building in the background, which I think in this case, your cropping is done right on. Your lighting is outrageously good. I'm looking in the background, I see some light hitting the trees, so you're using a low f-stop, but then again, your depth of field is good. So I don't know how you did that, but it came out like really, really ideal. Can't get any better than that. Subject wise, okay, it's, it is what it is. I can see the gentleman in the brown jacket, he had a little motion going on in his left arm. So, we were talking about your speed being a little bit slow for that. It's a very welcoming, good feel type of an image. It's an in and next.
Follow that man.
Excuse me. I think the strongest part about this image is that I think we've all learned to hate geese, right? I lived on a pond. Our patio used to be messed up with them, and they made a lot of noise, and we couldn't walk in the grass and all that. So there's good reasons not to like these critters. We did find a way to get rid of them, though. We got high-powered radio control boats and harassed the heck out of them, and they were gone, still gone. Anyway, enough of that. To have something appealing with the geese in it amuses me. And this is well done as far as the thought goes. Sort of like Pied Piper type of a situation. Okay, beyond that, I think you should crop the bottom to be not too far away from the webbed feet of the closest goose. Where would that be? In that light area just behind that goose, halfway through that light area, that would make this a stronger image. As far as I'm thinking about, gee, is this creative purposely done this way, making it look like sort of a take the photos taken in sort of an older type of a camera? I think not, because the geese are very sharp, and the rest of the image is a little off. The balance of the colors are not right. There's a lot of darks and whites in the mid ranges. There's not enough, not a broad spectrum of the grays there, but it has some strong elements here. It's an N. Go to next.
Home on the lake with reflections.
It's a very pleasant feeling image. One of the things that judges should look at is how does an image make you feel? Well, this makes me feel good. You understand what I mean? And that's done with the selective filtering that was done to make this a softer image. I don't think that's the way it was unintended to have happen. When I look at the composition of the image, looking at the elements and where they're placed and such, I'm thinking of terms if this was a landscape or a seascape. You don't want the horizon being right in the middle of your image. And when it comes to reflection, you don't have to have the entire subject reflected again. And in a way, it becomes competitive. Right now, the reflected image here does compete with your main image. So if you look at a way to cut down, I'd say 60% of your water, and you get away with all of that acreage of water at the same time, and it focuses more on the main subject. Now, this is a color image, and the colors are pretty neat and very realistic. And that yellowish color plant with its reflection in the artificial light color in that one window are distractions in this. And learn how to select those areas. Those 3 areas can be selected at the same time, or be each individually selected, but worked on at the same time. So you'll have 3 selected areas to work on. And go to your editing software where you can select different colors. And in this case, obviously yellow, and bring your yellow saturation down. And you'll look to see that you can remove that distraction. In and next.
Flowers in window.
This is a very pleasant image, and I'm going to put this in the almost into the creative category because of the filter that was used and the choice of the tight crop and the type of framing put around it. I'm familiar with that, and I happen to like that. I don't use it often, but I have in the past. The colors are nice, the balance of colors nice, the placement of the flowers is right on. It's nicely presented. It's an in and next.
On the cusp.
This is a pleasant portrait of looking at the background, the subject belongs with this sort of a background, so to speak. The lighting is very, very nicely done. There's the eyes are really done with the little halo in the light. Is that what it's called? There's another word for it. Sorry, escaped me. But you see your vertical lines going up and down on your doorway to your right, and I guess the framing of a door to your left. If those are corrected, they wouldn't become a distraction. Now, if you didn't want to do that, no, that's going to distort her a little bit. That's true. It's going to make her already round face look a little wider. So when you do that, you know the result's going to be that way, but you also know when that happens, what you do is you have to change the dimension of your image to make it a little bit taller or a little bit narrower. And that'll bring back the true shape of the person's face. The skin looks great, nice, softly lit, in and next.
Random book on shelf.
Wasting my time trying to read the book, and that shouldn't be the case. The initial impact that I had on this is like, it's amazing what you can do to create your own art. And simply a couple of books on a shelf, makes it. And if you had just the books in the black space, wouldn't have done it, but you included some of the shelving on it. And then you heard me talking about the perspective control and these lines are on angles. You know what? It's not a hard, fast rule to make the lines vertical. It depends on what you're trying to present. In this case, you're presenting something of your own imagination, of taking something that's very common and making it something else. The lighting is right on the money. The colors are very, very pleasant. In and next.
Delightful.
You know, I'm gonna say it needs a stroke with that white line around the image, so let me know where it is, because I can't comment on the placement of the subject in the frame. You follow me? All right, very, very nice, soft lighting on already soft skin. Your hair definition is very nice. I don't know what happened to the left side as I'm looking at her. It looks like maybe some editing that went on that didn't come out right. That's a little bothersome. So that should be addressed. The subject, the sharpness of the eyes, the eyebrows, the lips is all right on. This image is in and next.
Big leaf hydrangea.
Okay, the stroke line would have helped this image also, although this is a little bit gray against a black background. I can see where the image stops. So the cropping on this is right on. Can't get any better than that. The photographer chose to use a filter that gave it this creative effect. And in so doing, whatever you had to begin with, flower bouquet wise, came out in this abstract. Again, that's right on. So this is in and next.
Garden scene.
Excuse me. I have this nasal drip. In the beginning of the pandemic, I had a nasal drip then too. And every time I coughed, everybody would look at me and I said, nasal drip, long time, nothing to do with COVID. People would laugh. What a great sense of relief. Anyway, you found something very unusual. The tree that somehow looks like an animal of some sort. And that in itself is pretty neat. And I think putting on that little birdhouse, or can't be a birdhouse that low down to the ground, is sort of, to me, takes away from the natural look to the overall image. But it was there. You could have taken it off, but photographers don't do things like that, do they? Really? All right, you got a terrible time of the day, in bright sun. It's like really hard to get any good photograph. Of course, you get a lot of sharpness out of it, which is understandable. Where you positioned yourself and where you put the subject in your crop, all of that comes together very nicely. The colors are good. We just have to question the interest of the capture with regards to what overall was there. And again, shooting it in a daylight, maybe taking some abstract angle, from the ground looking up, or something else that might happen, and then in the foreground, we've got that starting at the very bottom of the image, dead center of the bottom image, there looks like a metal rod sticking up. That's a huge distraction. So overall, I'd say this is an out.
Christmas town at night.
All right, what you got here is an exposure that is right on. You've got these bright lights and you've got the darkened background with a little bit of light on the trees in that black area, which is really nice. Your bore, your line, that stroke line around it's a little bit distracting because my eye goes there because it's so heavy. It's when you put a line around an image, you're basically saying, here's the constraints of the image. It's not something I want you to see. Some people put on these fancy schmancy borders thinking that it goes with the image. No, no, no. In photo competition, you want to see the image. You don't want your eyes going to those fine lines around there. I'm just bringing it out because so many people don't have them, and I want to show people how much importance it has to the image. Anyway, here's where the image I'm finding fault with. Number one, first thing I saw is where you cropped the people right in their ankles. You want to get the complete body, including the feet in it. That hurts a lot. Look at your vertical lines to the right. When we talk about perspective control, see how it looks like the building is leaning, looking to fall on the people there. Right. On the other side, you can see that's off a little bit, but not as much. So for those reasons, especially the cropping, this is an out.
Red-eyed leaf frog.
Nature's design of these guys is such, it makes them look like they're almost like toys, that they're not real, but I think it's real. Hell of a macro shot. I have a friend that does a lot of macro, and I'm thinking about what he say about this, and he would like this, but he would bring out that, you could do this where everything in the image is going to be sharp, maybe not the furthest most leg to the upper left corner, but the ones in the foreground. So as far as, exposure, the lighting and the colors are concerned, I'm assuming that that's the colors that the eyes and the legs are. All of that comes together really nicely. Keep this in. Next.
Looking up at 57th Street.
You hear me talk about straight line up and down? You don't go there 100%. You sometimes have to weigh things, and I do a lot of shooting in the city, and I tend to be drawn to architecture more than I would like to. I'd like to be more diverse in my interest, but I just find New York architecture so much imagination is in it, the older buildings and the newer buildings, and including elements around those buildings, such as the maker of this photograph wanted to include. So it goes well with what you're doing with the buildings and showing. I don't think these are lights. I think these are cameras, but I could be mistaken. There's cameras all over New York, and no, wherever you go now, there's cameras everywhere. So what we're talking about right now is cropping. That's fine. The perspective control in this particular case is fine. Maybe when cropping, I would on the top and be more inclusive. I'm looking at the other light. It's a similar light. It wouldn't take much more of your image to include that. And in your capture, you might find it still there. Try and see what it looks like. On your right-hand side, you may want to crop out the triangular shape on your upper right-hand corner. So pull that crop over just a little bit. The lighting is very good. You've got the a lot of the shades of gray, and you've got black, and you have pretty close to white. This is in, and next.
Busy promenade Pest Hungary.
This is a nice capture. You know, there's a lot to it, but I think that's the maker's reason for taking this photograph and presenting it the way that you see it here. It's nice to see the repetition of the elements of the fence in the foreground. And looking at that, which is an important part of this image, I think if you notice the line going from left to right, let's start at the left lower corner, which I think is part of your frame, which should be just a fine white line, by the way, not this double lines here, makes it confusing. So if you start following that line over to the right, you'll see that there's the top of a wall, maybe, or maybe it's just pavement that's got shadows on it, whatever. So you could change that a little bit, like lower your right corner. If you know how to do that, surround it, take the handles to your right side and lower it down, at least the way you do it in Photoshop. So your vertical lines, your horizontal lines in the upper part of the image are right on, looking at the components of the framework of the window sills and things with door sills is right on. It's sharp everywhere, and you've got a broad range of grays and including blacks and whites. So this is an in and next.
Waterfall in black and white.
It's a very good black and white image. As mentioned in the last image there, you've got whites, you've got blacks, and all those shades of grays in between. In that regard, this is extremely well done. Selecting your speed is always a challenging decision to make while you're there. And a lot of people will set different speeds to get different effects. Of course, this is best done with a tripod. And how many of us take a tripod when we go out? Fortunately, some of the speeds that you use for getting this effect, you don't have to have a tripod. But in any event, you've got water flowing here at different rates of speed, because as the water goes over the rocks, it's a condensed area, it's going to go faster. It hits the water, it splashes up, that slows it down. And as the water flows to a larger area for the water to flow into, it goes slow too. So, you know, you've got things going for you in that regard, and that's all handled very well. The image is a little messy, so to speak. You know, after some storms that we've had over the last so many years, like Sandy, a lot of these areas that we used to go to, like the Hackleburny, is that the name of it? That area got devastated. There used to be like no fallen trees along there, to a place that looked like it got really hard hit. You couldn't even photograph there. I'm not saying you should take them out, because you could, but it's too much trouble. Let's leave this in. Next.
Garden patch.
Have that title again, please. I'm sorry.
Garden patch.
Okay, thank you. I think we all agree, we know this is a composition of some sort. Doesn't matter. It's very nicely done. The texture in the background, you know, you got your flower foreground, and of course 3, not 4 or 2 butterflies. in you know, positions that might be realistic or not, doesn't matter. This is a composition, and there's an in. And next, please.
Okay. Round two, we have 25. Cardinal and snowfall up close.
Okay, I go 7, 8, or 9. Okay, I'm just getting my thoughts together. 8,
Joshua tree.
8,
Hello, Froggy.
7,
Friendly basketball game.
7,
Who's looking at you?
7,
My peaceful place.
7,
Window shopping.
9, 9,
Graceful.
7,
Nightscape from Hoboken.
7,
Lily in the garden.
8,
Gull at sunrise.
8,
Famous tree of Ravello.
9,
Singing in the holiday season.
7,
Follow that man.
7,
Home on the lake with reflection.
7,
Flowers in the window.
9,
On the cusp.
7,
Random book on shelf.
8,
Delightful.
7,
Big leaf hydrangea.
7,
Red-eyed leaf frog.
7,
Looking up at 57th Street.
7,
Busy promenade pest Hungary.
8,
Waterfall in black and white.
8,
Garden patch.
9,
Okay, what we're gonna do is a first, second, and third, and the other one will just be honorable mention.
all right. I have them. Third will be the bright yellow flower with the 3 butterflies.
That's third place.
Yes.
Okay,
The second place will be the mannequins.
okay,
And the first place will be the windows with the flower.
okay. Open group 2, honorable mention, famous tree of Ravello, Rich Grossberg. Congratulations, Rich. Third place, garden patch, Dave. Beautiful job, Dave. Second place, window shopping, Bobby. Wow. And first place, flowers in window, Dan, once again, dynamite. And now we're going into our theme, which is transportation, group 1, 17 photos. Transportation reflection.
Now, these are combined categories, is that right? Combined levels?
No, this is the lower level,
Okay, gotcha.
the beginning of the intermediate, through intermediate.
I just a very tightly cropped image, keeping your subject in a very strong light, so to speak. Um, in cropping, that rule that we have about putting subjects, if the subject is moving, whether it be a human, a non-human, as in a car, an airplane, a boat, or animals, or birds, or what have you. If it's something that moves, and like in this case, you need more space in the front where the object psychologically is going to move into, so to speak. If it were a car, you might have even gotten away without doing that, but this is actually in a position where it is moving. So it's more important to do that. So that can improve this image. The colors are really, really nice. It's sharp. This is in. Now, excuse me, this, if you notice, I didn't comment on the reflection. Most of the time, too much reflection is not a good thing. In this case, to me, it works. Perhaps because it's such still water where you're getting a pretty close to true mirror image of the boat. Next.
Hippo boat.
It's one of those things in Philadelphia that went under once, I think, a few years back. Those little army ducks. It's like when you're shooting waterfowl, you're in a disadvantage in where you're located, taking the image and the angle you're getting it. And that's gives me the feeling where this, not live duck, but army duck is being photographed. And the end result is that it's coming out more of a, hey, I was there and it's a record shot of this happening, rather than being something that, for example, if you had photographed this from a canoe, maybe at a different angle, it would be a stronger image. But yeah, where I see this right now, this is an out.
Venice Canal.
The strongest point in this image is the exposure and the sharpness. Whoever took this photograph has got a pretty decent sensor that they're dealing with. It's, don't know what kind of light coming in here. It's not direct sunlight, and it might be a diffused sun or a sunrise or what have you. In any event, it's to your advantage because you don't have what bright light you see on the major building in the background. It isn't blown out, and you've got most of your shaded areas with detail in it. And I understand that some are totally black. Some judges say, oh, I don't see any detail in this black area. Well, that's because you can't see it. Camera won't see it because your eyes can't see it. You shouldn't be seeing it here either. If you put detail in there artificially, it doesn't look right. So that all comes together nice. If you look at the boat in the foreground on the bottom where the dark areas are, you can see details there because there were details that even the eye can see. All right, it's talking about the perspective control. It's off. You can see there's the vertical lines where they should be vertical lines to your left near that doorway, and to the buildings to the right are off. That should be corrected. And you crop the top of the whatever is on top of the building, on top of the roof, that off. That'd be a big no too. But I'll leave this in because it's deserving of a 7 because of the sharpness and what you've captured in the image, although it is a little bit too much to the eye to move around in. It's a pleasant image to leave it in.
Yesteryear's transport.
first impression I had is with the lighting in this. Again, at that bright time of the day, you have to use some controls to try to get that out of there. Also, you heard me mention earlier, more often than not with foliage, that the yellow should be pulled back, and this is a good example. Even though I recognize there is yellow in some foliage, but I'll bet you would notice very quickly how much improved this image would be pulling back that yellow channel a bit. That's as far as colors are concerned, my comments. Now the subject matter, okay, they're nicely exposed, they're very, very sharp. You've got some really interesting foreground here to compete with that. You know, as a matter of fact, the foreground I find is a lot more interesting than the subject matter. The subject matter I really enjoy a lot. If I were there, I'd be climbing all over these things, looking to see how they work. And I understand the tractor's providing the power to the whatever's going on in that other machine. But I'm wondering if you cut out the bottom, would it bring the attention to the other one? I don't know. It's a tricky one. All right, because it's very sharp, I'll keep this as an end image.
On the rocks.
With COVID around, we're seeing more and more creative ideas coming out of being inside, and so it's nice to see this. That's a Rubicon also. That's an upscale Jeep. It's a cute idea, and the colors are really, really nice. The focus on the subject matter is right on. It's not on the rocks in the foreground, and it's obviously done with a very bright light or a flash, which is very, very noticeable. Oh, and see, it's got a snorkel on it too. Oh my God, I want to play with that Jeep. That's an out.
Compact car parking.
I like the square crop. I like the fine white line around it. Put in another pitch for that. There's a lot to look at here. Your colors are right on, and looking at the different car colors, the color is just beautiful. Your perspective control is all over the place, as you can see. And this is a case where I think that would make a big difference. What I like about this image mostly is the repetition, which is always nice. I would say that this might be much improved if you presented this in a mono. Take a look at that and see how you like it. I'll leave it in.
Kayaking on the river.
I like the panel. In this case, I think say in this case now. Usually I like a tighter crop around the top of the image, but in this case, I think if you still have more of this image on your original capture, is to allow more foliage on the top. The head, I think, is just too much up there. It would be nicer to get a picture of the person coming at you than going away. That's sort of a little bit of a rule in photography. You know, seeing the person and see the emotions on the person's face, see their eyes and like that, you know. I know in street photography, which I find the most challenging of all to me, is doing street photography, which very often includes people. And I know it's a certain comfort level to get used to taking a shot, take a picture of them coming at you rather than going away, no matter whatever they're doing looks interesting to you. the speed here is nice. I can see a lot of water splashing up in the air. I think that's what it is, looking to the right of the head. And I think if you crop to the right-hand part of the image, like in the back end of the watercraft halfway, that would help bring that space in the front in prominence a little more, especially a boat like this. It has the feeling, it looks as if it's going fast, standing still, so to speak. This is out.
Excuse me,
Out.
Ryan's truck.
Again, the square crop is attractive. Old trucks and junkyards and all of that are fun. Especially when you got a paint job like this going on for it. In the beginning, I looked at this, oh, there's this green hue over everything. I said, no, I think that's the feel of a junkyard. And the green mold or whatever it is that grows on things, including foliage, and gets over everything. It's very realistic color wise, like from what I recall junkyards being like. And it's a nice point of view of where in what you've included in your image. I think is as strong as it can be for this. Leave this in, please. And next.
Car transporter.
Like the panel for this type of a subject. It's very, very sharp. And the colors are right on. The first ouch that I saw was what we've talked about several times here, is space for the truck to go. And there's no space. It looks like he's going to run into something. So that's an important thing to do. And another thing is the big things that it hurts the image is that I mentioned about no space for it to go into. That even though there's so many good qualities of the exposure, you have to think about the interest level of something too. You know, taking a record shot of a truck going by, like you have to say, is this something that you want to bring into a photography competition? You know, maybe from a different angle, maybe doing a very slow speed when you're creating a creative. I don't know what to mention, but just taking a record shot of something like this for photo competition, it's tough to do well with it. This is out.
Hot rodder.
Where do we start? All right, cute idea, you know, kudos for that. And it looks like somebody's pet is put on a little model motorcycle. That's pretty neat. You know, the lighting is terrible and it's not really sharp, except for the eye and the animal, which is, you did well with that. In that the blotch of black in the upper right-hand corner looks like someone's got their finger in front of the lens or what have you. So the whites are blown out. So I have to say this one is out.
Slow going.
I was seeing a lot of photographs taken in that part of the world and of camel caravans and all of that, but this is a little bit different with showing just a shadow. That's a really good thing that you thought about doing, rather than the typical shots, which always come out really nice, by the way, not knocking it at all. But this makes it different. I like the blue and browns go together well. Uh-oh, I forgot to plug my laptop is plugged in. What's going on? It says my battery is low. Okay. You might lose me personally, but I'll still be on with my my other seat that I have for the meeting. So compositionally, where the sky is cropped really, really nicely, I think the crop on the bottom is good. You might think about improving this image a little bit by darkening a little the shadows in the shaded area of the sand, but this is in. Next.
Paddle wheels of the River Queen.
All right, strong colors here is dominating the impact of the image. There's for an image like this, though, you want everything to be tack sharp so you can see the wear on the components, the whatever's growing on it, and in detail. Because I'm sure the detail's there, but the image didn't capture it. This is out. Next.
To the top of the mountain.
You're gonna like the square choice of cropping. It's amazing. You go all the ways out there and have to see advertising. That's so wrong. Right, placement of your principal subject here is right on the money. The cables echoing the slope of the green part of the land and the edge of the mountains and all of that is right on. If you had a picture without the gondola there in all its machinery and cables that go with it, you would say the horizon's too crooked, but it's like shooting across the river that is on an angle. It comes out on an angle on the pitch on an image. You always have to correct it anyway, because the judge is always going to say it's not straight. The details are sharp. The color is right on the money. The sky's on the money, as well as the color of the greens and the backgrounds. It's just in.
Scuttling along.
All right, so the image is sharp everywhere. The exposures are fine, even in the dark trousers of the gentleman. And it's tall.
I think Rich has to turn on his other
Yeah, I think so.
computer volume.
That's what I would bet.
Custom.
Rich, your battery's gone dead. We can't hear you.
I'm thinking of stopping sharing.
You have a phone number for him to call, Mark?
No, I don't.
Bobby,
What's that?
a phone number to call him? Maybe he doesn't realize.
I don't have it.
Okay.
Is Harvey here?
Harvey is the one who books the judges.
Yeah. I
Well,
don't
Harvey
see-
was here.
He was here. Harvey
No.
Josephson.
Is he logging back in again?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm gonna start sharing again. Give me a moment.
My laptop, I lost my audio to you also, sorry.
Okay, let's go back here. We were in group 1. And we have 4 pictures left.
Did anybody hear my comments on this one yet?
No.
Okay,
You were talking about detail in the pants.
okay, thank you. Those are the comments. Is somebody else talking or is that an echo from me? Okay, it's not me. All right, the things that bother me a lot in this image, first and foremost, is when you see that traffic light, you see that rectangular black, whatever that is. I guess that's a sign that has nothing on it. That's a huge distraction, as well as the one to the lower left of that. Then I look at the pillars to the left. You're doing architectural photography, they must straight up and down almost all the time. In this case, they have to be straight up and down. We talked earlier about getting the backs of people. You could have the impact of the people moving across the street. If you have the front of them, you get their faces and their eyes, their expressions. That's important. Again, it's nice colors and the sharpness is good, but the lack of these other faults corrected, the lack of the correction of those faults, and the lack of getting them all put together, this is out.
Moving on.
Be muted. This is the colors are just the weight of the view. All right, the key element here is the motion blur, which is fabulous. Following the car with your camera is the only way that I know of that can make this thing happen this way. Because if you got the car frozen with your speed, you would have gotten the wheels too. And the width of those white or the bright colors in the image will show you how long the pan was with the camera. This is all good stuff, by the way. Include this in the in group, please. Next.
You said it?
This is in.
Okay. Sailing along.
All right, you've got great lighting. Look at the light on the sail. You could tell its shape with where the wind is blowing into the sail, and the light is catching it in just a nice way. So that's good. You've got great reflection. You don't have a reflection of the entire boat. This is fine. As I mentioned earlier, you don't need the entire subject being reflected. Again, that's the idea that there is a reflection there. The tail end of the boat, you could tone down that bright white area. When you have complete white area of so-called blowout, there's no recovering it. What you have to do is be a little creative, select it, and clone some adjacent areas and colors into it. Not at 100%, but my very much reduced it 40% just to fill it in. Cropping wise, I mean, you do have more space in the front of the boat than the left, but I say if you cropped a little bit more to the left, it will make a little more sense. In balancing your crop at top and bottom would be better than the tighter crop at the top than the bottom. But this is in. And next, please.
To the beach.
Coney Island, I used to live not too far from there at one time. I never knew where the other end of the line was, so in Bronx, never Norwood. Oh, 205th Street, okay.
I'm gonna ask people not to talk during the presentation, or please turn your mic on mute.
So the two things I noticed, of course, the window trim, vertical line on an angle, that the very first thing that I saw. Of course, again, the exposure in the background is so overwhelming. You know, whatever idea you had up behind presenting this gets really trashed, if you may, by having that so bright, overwhelmingly bright area. This is out.
Okay, we have 9 in the second round. Transportation reflection,
What do I do with now?
7, 8, 9.
7, 8. Oh, really? How many of them do you have in the 9s? How many?
I have to give me a sec. I have to get out of here to do that. Hold on. We have 9 pictures.
Is there, they can be presented all on the screen at the same time?
Yeah, if you want, hold on.
Thank you.
No, we're in the wrong phase. We're in the 7, 8, 9 phase.
I know, he wanted to see them all.
I'm sorry, all of the 9s that I'm going to be looking at now, selecting the other ones.
No, these are not the 9s. These are the next round 2. This is 7, 8, or 9. You scored.
Now,
Just in the in and out.
We did the in and out. We're now doing 7, 8, or 9, and then the 9s will get, he'll determine first, second, and third.
I apologize.
Not a problem.
7,
Venice Canal.
7,
Excuse me?
7,
Yesteryear's transport.
7,
Compact car parking.
7,
Ryan's truck.
8,
Slow going.
9,
To the top of the mountain.
8,
Moving on.
9,
Sailing along.
7,
Okay, from here, we're going to pick a first and second place. And here I'm going to throw them both up.
okay. I think that car will be second place. And the
Which
other
one? The car?
car will be second place and the other image will be first.
Okay, now from these 2, we're going to do a third place.
Gotcha. The truck.
The truck. Okay. Theme Transportation Group 1, honorable mention to the top of the mountain, Claude Heller. Very nice, Claude, as always. Third place, Ryan's truck, Claude again. Wow, you're doing terrific today. Second place, moving on, Flo. Wow, beautiful shot. And first place, slow going, flow again, wow. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment. And I am going to mute everybody and ask Rich to unmute. Okay, we have 29 pictures for theme group 2. Four ways to find your lover. I have to read them again.
I'm sorry, going on with my laptop at the same time.
That's okay, that's okay.
So you may have to let me.
You're in again. 4 ways to find your lover.
This is a mixed, oh, I have to do something on my volume again here, sorry. Just bear with me for a second, please. Get my volume on. Can you hear me okay?
No, you've got an echo again.
I don't know why.
You got to mute one of the two computers.
I think that did it. Did it?
No, you still have a little echo.
Well, I'm.
Actually, a
maybe-
big echo.
I'm gonna be quiet for a minute here. I'm sorry, I'm having this problem here.
You got a feedback loop. It sounds like you've got your speaker and a mic pointing at each other. Change the direction.
Understand. I've got my volume off on that. I'm going.
You got to point them away, the two computers away from each other.
I just shut off. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, I turned off my laptop altogether. Sorry. I don't know why that happened just for a while. All right, this image is got so many things going on here. It's easy to say there's too much going on, too much to look at, but get rid of it. But I think we're going to leave this in and go to the next one, please.
Okay. Kayaks and catamarans.
Beautiful colors, of course, the emphasis on the bright colored canoes, or they're not canoes, what do they call them? Kayaks, okay. And a line of catamarans going front to back in the repetition is a very positive element, as is the snow fence, the way it is giving you those repetitive S curves along the way. Normally you would say the horizon smack in the middle, that really it can't be, but then what's your alternative? Cropping out some of that's coming out in your foreground, or do you crop some of it from the mass of the catamarans, which you can't do? So you got to leave it there. Leave this in, please, and go next.
Up we go, where we land, nobody knows.
All right, obviously, well, the colors are very right on. The color variation because of the where the primary light's coming from, the sun, I'm assuming, works really well. The way you've got this cropped is really nice because it makes it asymmetrical, which in this particular case works well. Please leave this in. Next.
Rowboat full of rowers.
These are always fun because you've got repetitive pattern of the people who are rowing. And you add to that the people that are shouting instructions, I assume. Everything is very, very sharp, and the speed that you elected to use works too. What doesn't work is, where's the other end of the boat? You need that. You got a boat behind you that interrupts the silhouettes, so to speak, of the entire boat. And again, you've got too much water in the foreground here. So this is out.
Cardboard boat race.
Very natural color wise. The green in the water, very natural. The sun on the sand or dirt in the background. There's a little bit of a distraction technically, but it sort of goes with the overall image. The lighting on the subject, the people there are okay, considering it's a direct sun, but direct sun gives you those blown outs too, which aren't attractive. And the most important thing to comment on here is this is a photography club competition. And this image is basically a record shot of something. There's nothing unique about the image. Had you maybe taken it at a different image and got in really tight and focused on the facial expressions, exerting themselves, pushing the water, that makes it a difference. But in this case, it's just the fact that you were there and you took a picture of it. So this is out. Next.
Waiting for repair.
All right, the exposure is very, very well done. You're in currently in the shade mostly. You've got one little area here that's got open to a bright overcast day, which is ideal for photographing subjects as you have here. Bring the contrast up a little tiny bit, or maybe just your blacks a little tiny bit. Those black areas that don't have much detail in it isn't going to make, you're not going to lose any more detail unless you overdo it. Cutting off the truck's other fender hurts a little bit. If it were included in this, it would make a difference. This being a black and white image might find it being more appealing as well, and your perspective control is off. If you notice the near the back of the truck, the vertical line there's some sort of a structural thing that kind of bothers me a bit. And this is out.
Climb aboard.
Oh, that's panel crop here works with this, this subject. Really tightly cropped on the back end. A little more space could have been needed. The colors are fine. Again, it's like there's two children in the boat, you know, it's just something you came across and you took a record shot of it. Maybe showing somebody getting on and off of it in an awkward way would help. Maybe one of the attendants doing something with the animal might have helped, or when the animal was going to get back up on its feet and they got into a very awkward looking position, that would make a difference. But right now, it's just taking a record shot. And for that reason, this is out.
I once was a boat bicycle.
Okay, we can have one of those images that looks like it on purpose was made to look like something. I'm just going through, some of us all may be there, copying, digitizing our old photographs and slides and VHS tapes and all that stuff. I've come across scrapbooks that has a lot of images in it that have that appearance of oldish looking, and this, whoever did this did a very good job in making it that way. And I'm going to judge the image accordingly, because what came out of the camera was certainly different than what you got here. So that works. That speaks very strongly for the positive elements of this image. Once again, that vertical line where the pedal is to the right on such an angle is something that should be addressed, and they could try to turn down the brightness of this a little bit. I don't think you're going to lose what you were aiming for with having that old photograph image, but it might help it. But leave this in, please. And next.
Delivery on time.
Been really neat. Amazon boat. It's a little hot as far as the whites, too kind of on the bright side. And there's a way, I don't think there's a way in editing to really make this corrected the way it should be corrected. I commented before about where's the other end of the boat. I was going to do that here, but I think the action in this image are the people and their load on the boat, and you've cropped it properly for that reason. Yeah, but the brightness on this is killing this image, and you've got your vertical lines, vertical, and it shows, except that one thing to the right, which two things to the right, which I can understand or anything, but there's nothing in vertical that makes sense to me. But this is out because of the overexposure.
Commuting in Amsterdam.
I don't know if they say this way, but I got on a train and rode it a few times, thinking, gee, what a business plan they have. This is free. I didn't know that if I got caught, I would have been a heavy fine that you have to buy a pass to use them weekly or monthly or whatever it was. All right, this subject is really nice. I like that. And we don't have these kind of things in most places. There's a few of them around the country, but not many. Philadelphia still has a few really old ones, by the way. If you can get down there to shoot them, they're pretty neat, especially the barn where they go to. The colors are really, really very truthful to me. They look very, very strong. What is the killer here is this thing being on an angle, and the perspective control is so far off on the trolley as well as the building. So that sort of ruins it. Otherwise, you know, where the main subject, the trolley, is placed within the frame works really, really nicely. But the perspective control is so far off. This is an out.
Are the headlights on?
All right, let's take captures of appropriate parts. This is a little different. And I like it because, hey, it's not bright, shiny, different color, antique. It's sort of a modern vehicle, obviously. And in the rain, and some of the water's making it look like it might be a dirty car, but I don't think that's what it is. And the colors, everything is mono except the bright yellow light. That's a very positive thing also. Yeah, you know, I'm not one to diss an image just because there's blownouts in it, because that's what you see if your eyes were on it. And so I don't take off for that, but leave this in, please. And next.
1934 Ford, black and white.
You did well at choosing black and white for an image like this. Everything is exposed nicely. The blown out areas in the white are expected. And I'm not going to take off of that, nor would I with the chrome around the light and a couple of other places in the image. Again, that's what your eyes see. The only thing that really bothers me in this, the vertical lines are vertical, by the way, like that, is the tight crop on the right. I don't understand somebody presenting what I see here now would do that. That surprises me. Leave this in, please. Next.
Moving out.
I like the panel. I love the tracks, how they go and disappear down to the exit of the, looks like station or onto the next station. I think if you had adjusted the, in this case, horizontal lines where that it appears to be, let's call it just a structure above the train. It's on an angle. If you adjusted the image so that that is flat, you'd be amazed at how much difference that makes. Now, I looked at the rolling stock there, the passenger cars, and coupled with the title of this image, which I'm a strong believer in a proper title for an image, even though it hurts me sometimes when I show my own in competitions. The train is soft because it's moving and nothing else in, everything else is very sharp. So those are very positive elements. This stays in, please.
Old and rusty, but once high in the sky.
Once again, it has an appearance of being an older type of photograph. I think in the not black and white, but monotone presentation you're giving here, you wanted it that way. So we're not looking at bright, shiny metal with really sharp detail and everything exposed exactly the way it should be. Like you see on the tree trunks in the background. You don't see it here, which is interesting. So this is a nice idea. It's presented within the crop area as perfectly as it could be. Leave this in, please.
Hot rod.
There's so many different possibilities when you shoot these things. You go all these different angles, and they're always appealing in some fashion. Again, you got a lot of chrome shining. You've got the very small f-stop to get those star effects and all of that, unless you put them in software, which you can do. What I would have done cropping wise, assuming that your original capture is bigger than this, I think the air cleaner, the object in the center at the top, where you're cropping off more than half of it. I think if you allowed the entire cleaner to be there, unless you got into other areas of the engine compartment that are major distractions. Otherwise, okay, this is fine. But when if you had more of that showing, you'd get that chrome pipe that's coming up vertically and coming towards you on an angle. You want to clip that right at its edge. Now leave this in, please. Next.
Red Roadster.
All right, speaking of everything except the red car, mono is just beautifully done. Whatever time of day is, looks like direct sun. It's hitting the leaves the right way. It's falling on the stairs and the tree with a little bit of blowouts. And again, I don't go crazy with those if they look natural, you know. Again, what the eye would see if you're looking at it. The model part of the foreground puzzles me a little bit, but I'm just going to assume my brain isn't just feeling that way because I can't figure out exactly what it is. Now, the primary focus of the maker of this image is, of course, to make this creative result that's shown here, obviously, and have a feeling it's the same person that was playing with the motion pictures that we saw in the other images. And I think that it's very, very well done. Keep this in, please.
Ding, ding.
I love these little things. I don't know if this is in San Francisco. It has a feeling that it is, but I'm not sure. And I even got at the end of the line where you got to get off and manually help push it or turn it around. Okay, exposure is pretty good. Even in the whites did not fully blown off except on the pavement area and all of that. I don't know how you did that. How'd you get the train or the streetcar, cable car, so much in focus and sharp everywhere, and then everything else is blurred? It might be post-processing. In any event, in doing that, what you've done is you really created a big distraction with that triangular shaped bright area to your left. And the fact that your perspective control is off, not so much in the building in the background with regards to the vertical line in the dead center of the picture above the cable car. But if you look at the right side of where the building is, you can see that it's not correct, nor is, I was going to speak about the vertical lines on the cable car, but you can't because it's going down a hill. But we'll leave this in for now. This is a 7.
Engine 796.
Wow, I remember the time when I used to see these things. Now you only see them in museums or in railroad museums. Nice choice of mono. Sometimes the bright colors on these things obscure the design. I like the lighting here. Look at the reflections on the side of the locomotive reflecting some of the skies. That's really well done. It's very, very sharp from the front to the back, and that works very well here. The crop is done really nicely. See the amount of room for where the engine can move into as opposed to the back. Taking consideration how far back that is, this is very well balanced. You could do a little perspective control. I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm pointing this out to you. You can see it for yourself. Look at that street lamp. It's on an angle. The room, it just takes away from the image so much in that it becomes a distraction. It's an easy thing to correct. Lead us in, please.
Next stop, Southern New Zealand.
How can you take something as common as an ocean liner like this and take a picture of it and make it look as nice as this looks? This is beautifully done. Now you heard the good news. Now you got to hear me trash it, right? Not trash it. But again, you want to improve this image? Look at the space where the boat's going to go into, given the direction the boat's faced. You've got less room there than you got where the boat was. Easily corrected. Just crop the left side of the boat. Starting from the left, go across 75% of that space to the back of the boat and trim that part of it off. You've got the horizon in the right place. You've got a good balance of the water in the sky. If you want to crop 25% of the bottom of the image to reduce that large area, you look at the amount of acreage, so to speak, that the water is taken against the brighter part of the boat, which is the main feature of the boat. That your eyes are going to the lighter part of your subject. So if you don't want the competition of the water, there's nothing there, to just take some of that water out. Keep this in, please.
Coming and going.
Okay, broken record. Look at your perspective. Look at your left. You see how the straight up and down the borders are and how much of an angle the building is on the left. See the angle that the building is on the right, the tall building to your right. Those are very meaningful corrections to make anytime you've got architectural images. And I have a feeling that there's some lens correction you have to do also. I'm looking at the building in the center. There seems to be a little curve in that. And that there's a simple control. I know in Photoshop, there's several different places. There's a couple of different places you can easily do that. But whatever software you use, and take that out and see if that makes any difference there. I don't see that curve on the left or right. Somehow, maybe it's just an illusion. What you really need here is more black in the image. And it looks like you're shooting through a window also. And it's sort of obvious that you're doing that. This is a note.
An old train. On an old train.
The colors are beautiful, very beautiful. The lighting is beautiful. The bright light coming through the windows to the right is forgiving because it might be that it's very bright out there. If you could tone that down a little bit, I think that would help you a little bit. You've got that bright white. That's the first thing that my eyes went to, dead center of the image, below the gold bird up on, just below the 297. Looking past the child that's framed with the doorway, that bright area, that definitely has to be toned down. That's taking away. The child there in the middle of the doorway is great. That's a picture in itself. The people on the left are, okay, believable, facing each other. It's a family. And then there's a lot of contrast to that believable, acceptable view of some people sitting there. But you look at I think it's a single person to the right. You might know it's two people there together. One has an arm over the other one's shoulders. That's a little confusing to me, and I don't see their faces of either one of them. Um, We'll leave this in because all the elements of the train itself and the lighting and all that, that's pretty decent. We'll leave it in.
Short haul carrier.
Okay, all detail. Am I making that echo? My other machine is off now.
You're okay.
Okay, look at the detail in all of the material it's being wheeled around on what looks like an old baby carriage. You got the person's face, the face is lit up. That's great. You had a really nice tight cropping about your main subject. That is the person with the wheeling the load of goods. You get the feeling that, okay, I just made all of these. They look like footwear inside of plastic bags. I'm going to bring them to market, or maybe you want to buy some from her, whatever that is. So they're very nicely done. Leave it in place.
Shipped in Reykjavik Harbor.
All right, the cap is an excellent capture with regards to lighting and exposure. The colors are believable because I've seen water colored this way in certain times of usually some period before sunset and at a certain time. I see that down at our shore in our town of Broadway Beach all the time at a certain time of night. That's what this color reminds me of. At first, it doesn't look realistic. Okay, the sharpness is there. The clouds look great. The color of the sky is believable. And you're looking at it. What's the first thought that you have? The crop is just too tight. And you have to also bring into that question of, like, it's more of a record shot. There's nothing unusual. There's nothing going on about it. Yeah, you could say the same for that beautiful capture of that ocean liner as well. But somehow it coupled together with the elements that were around it. I think it made a little bit more of a contrast in that there was something going on more than just a capture shot. But the fact that the colors are pretty good and the sharpness there, we'll still leave this in.
Amish taxi.
Really, I didn't know they had them. I thought they were just always owned by the people who had them as their means of transportation. Never knew about them as taxis. Okay, first off, to talk about the position of the camera, it's ideal. You're looking at it at the right angle. Because the carriage is on an angle, I'm looking at the place where people would be inside. I believe it looks like a windshield. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. And why does this look like as if that compartment swivels? Maybe it does swivel as a means for a person to get out, so they don't have to get out over the axles of the wheels. That's interesting, but it's puzzling. All right, the animal itself is pretty sharp. It looks a little bit over exposed, but then the shaded areas would hurt if you change that. The background buildings look soft. And of course, you've got the overly overexposed area, and I understand it's raining out. I'm looking at the what is obviously water with raindrops in the background. So the exposure is hurting this a lot. cropping at the bottom, cropping part of the hoof off is not a good thing. We'll leave it in for now.
Crossing the bridge.
Good repetitive pattern. The yellow line adds a lot to it. The motion of the wheel adds to this image. And I'm just thinking of the overall impression of the image interest-wise, and I don't think it's there. That's my personal opinion, and this is an L.
Needs a bit of paint.
Interesting. Old cars now, they're of equal value to ones that people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in restoring them. And they have the same value as ones that are left undone. This is nice capture, lighting wise, including the shadow of the headlight, which is very, very natural looking. All the colors of the faded paint and the various textures of the rust are all very believable. And it's cropped very nicely. Leave us in, please.
Malaprop.
Something a little bit. The photographer did take strong account for where he positioned the main subject, how well balanced the crop is, as relative to the orange of the cowling to the left and the right. The angle of the propeller adds to the image. So the cropping overall is pretty good. I look very, very closely, and though like the numbers on just over the red horizontal lines in the reddish area to the left and right of the center of the prop look sharp as can be, but I think because it's overall a little overexposed, it doesn't come out to be that. And then all of the highlight really blown badly over the top of the cowling into the wing area to the left. Hurts this image a lot. So this is out.
The love bug.
Interesting subject. Don't we all wish we had done this back in the day? And some people are still doing it. Can you imagine? I don't know if anybody drove one of these things, but they're a wreck to drive. They're so underpowered. You don't really want to drive one of these things. You've got here, once again, just a record shot of something. You know, it's an interesting item to shoot. You know, maybe getting a person next to some of the artwork on it, or coming in and out of it. Yeah, you got some people in the background near the windshield there. That's a bit of a distraction. And of course, your perspective control is all out of whack. This is an out.
Junkyard gem.
Oh, why don't you crop it this way? Oh. Go back to your original capture to see if you got the rest of the handlebars. What a difference that would make. Because otherwise, this is a pretty interesting presentation. The mono background, then the main subject being in color. That orange streamer-like object. I don't know if you could, there's a tool in Photoshop, you just wipe it along that. It does a halfway decent job most of the time of removing that. You can give that a try. You can start doing a lot of cloning. It'll take you forever. Depends on how committed you are to making this thing as good as can be.
I personally don't like introducing colors of the subject into that frame around the image. It's good that you've got it there, but why do you make it yellow? I noticed it. I don't want to notice that little fine white line around the image. You understand what I mean? But we'll keep this in because of the other attributes of it, of the image, the sharpness of it, the colors and such. So leave it in. Next.
Okay, we have 19 for round 2.
I'm sorry this is going so long.
That's okay. 4 ways to find your lover. Was that it? Hold on. Yeah, to find your love.
No more comments. We just do it. Okay. 7.
Kayaks and catamarans.
7.
Excuse me?
7.
Up we go where we land, nobody knows.
8.
I once was a bicycle.
7.
Are the headlights on?
7.
1934 Ford, black and white.
8.
Moving out.
8.
Old and rusted, but once high in the sky.
7.
Hot rod.
7.
Red roadster.
9.
Ding ding.
7.
Engine 796.
8.
Next stop, Southern New Zealand.
8.
An old train.
7.
Short haul carrier.
9.
Ship in Reykjavik Harbor.
7.
Amish taxi.
7.
Need a bit of paint.
8.
Junkyard gem.
8.
Okay. From here, we're going to do a first and second.
All right, the woman with the load of merchandise. Model, yeah.
Excuse me?
That's number 1, and the other would be number 2.
Okay, here we're going to do a third place.
Difficult times for judges. You're going to kill me because of all my comments about record shots, but I'm going to go for the ocean liner.
Okay. Stonebridge Transportation Group 2. Transportation, third place. Next stop, Southern New Zealand. Mark, that's me. Theme Transportation Group 2, second place. Red Roadster, Bobby, beautiful job. I really like that motion. And first place, Short Haul Carrier, Dan, once again, another first place, terrific. Okay, I am going to stop sharing and throw it open now. Flo?
Well, nobody's.
Here we are. Okay, Rich, you did a wonderful job. We all learned a great deal. Very many interesting points that you made. I know we would have loved to discuss some of them, but given the lateness of the hour, and I'm sure you must be exhausted, we're going to call it a night. So thank you very much.
Sorry it went so long, and thank you for inviting me